Hello again and welcome. Last episode I spoke with CEO and Chief Learning Officer Dr. Guido Minaya on the background and different levels of measurement. Moving on, this episode I will be continuing my conversation with Dr. Minaya on the what, why, when, and how of evaluation and measurement. Stay tuned to learn more. So we've talked a little bit about the background of evaluating training, but why should organizations measure?
As any business activity in today's world needs to show value, the learning and development teams within their corporations absolutely have to show why the training that's been invested in shows value back to the corporation. So training is an organizational investment. It needs to demonstrate value to the stakeholders that are funding it. It needs to show that there has been improvement, ideally continuous improvement based on the training interventions. It helps you build stakeholder relationships. So if somebody's going to say, all right, you're telling me that you need $50,000 to develop this course and deliver this course, what are the results? And if you can demonstrate results, that helps you continue to build stakeholder value and relationships. And at the end of the day, your future budget requests are going to be dependent on how well your past courses have done. So that's important. Your learning and development teams can show their value and be retained. And you, if you're an outside provider like we are as Minaya Learning Global Solutions, we can be retained or asked to support new projects. So it is highly important to show, the value based on that measurement and evaluation.
I guess following that would be, when should organizations measure?
Yeah, there are let's say, symptoms of greater readiness for when should you measure. But let's say that there's a pressure for results, that, sales training needs to take place, or customer satisfaction needs to improve, or in the healthcare industry, patient satisfaction and patient care needs to improve. The pressure for results for any organization that also involves a training intervention leads to, we are ready to be able to not only take care of the training, but to measure the results associated with the training. If by chance your learning and development organization isn't well funded, by doing more evaluation on the work that you are asked to perform gives you an opportunity to possibly increase your funding levels. There could be a case where there was some level of a training disaster where it didn't achieve the results required. So the next time you're asked to look at it, you may include a much more comprehensive evaluation component. There may be a new training leader that comes into the picture, and that new training leader wants to evaluate his team of instructional designers and instructors and vendors, and more evaluation is needed. Or a very important desire to build cutting-edge organization. So all of those lead to great reasons as to when you should focus in on evaluation and measurement.
Following on our W questions from why and when, let's move on to what. What should be measured?
You've got the actual courses that are being developed. It could be self-paced. So you're going to want to measure how well did that e-learning course do on its own. Not only how many participants registered for it, how many completed, how did they do on their assessments. So that would be, the self-paced courses, the instructor-led courses. And now we have instructor-led courses that are both less and less traditional classroom and more virtual instructor-led courses. How are those doing? Is there any additional changes to the content that needs to take place, or the virtual instructor-led skills that instructors need? If you have a much fuller program, not only a single course, but some of our curriculums that we do for our clients might be, a 12-month program, might be a 90-day program. So you'd want to measure that entire program. And then at the end of the day, is there new skills and competencies? So a competency assessment might be appropriate. So you definitely want to measure, those kinds of things. And then the other side of it is the outcome, learner satisfaction, as we talked about, for level 1, understanding for level 2, performance and behavior for level 3, and impact and business results for level 4. So those are what we would measure.
So we briefly talked about the levels of measurement, but how do we apply that? How do we measure?
I think it's important to maybe look at it in two different spheres, right? Let's say spheres of influence. One would be your internal drivers, and the other one would be your external drivers. So, as an example, when you're looking at it from an internal driver perspective, was the learner satisfied? Did the participants in the session find value in the course? Another internal driver is, did the participants, did the students, did your employees, did they learn something? So those are internal drivers that are almost operational kind of requirements. And then you have the other side of the coin, which is your external drivers, right? And by external drivers, can they apply what they learned to the job? The job in this sense would be for a customer, for a company. So that's an external driver, right? Did the performance improvement impact business results? So business results won't come until that employee is performing the job. And did they do the job better? Are more customers satisfied? Are more patients being cared for properly? So those are external drivers. So those are the two types that you need to look at in terms of how you're going to create your evaluations.
What are some things to consider before even starting the process of measurement?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Dario. I think when you're looking at measuring a training program, there is so much that comes before that, right? Determining the needs of your client, or if you're the manager that needs the training, setting the objectives clearly on what that training is going to include, determining the content, and even developing the course that they're asking for, selecting the appropriate modality. Is it going to be a self-paced course? Is it going to be a virtual instructor-led course? Is it going to be a traditional classroom course? Is it going to be a hybrid course, right? All of that is done ahead of time. Then you move on to, all right, who's going to participate in the pilot or the more general course once it's generally available? Then you have to determine the schedule, right? Is it going to be, in March? Is it going to be at the end of the year? When's our busiest time? So all of that comes into the planning. And then what kind of facilities do you need? Do you need better virtual instructor-led facilities? Do you need a virtual lab? Do you have the classrooms? Do you have to contract with a hotel for space? And then selecting the appropriate instructors. So now the course is developed. Now you have to get the instructors trained. And then you have to do the final coordination of the program, right? All of that happens before you even get to evaluate the program. I mean, we had a situation in one of my projects in Asia where our instructor scores dropped pretty badly. And we were using the same instructors. We were teaching the same courses. And we come to find that we changed the vendor that provided the cookies. So the participants were judging the entire experience because they weren't getting the kind of cookies that they used to get that they really liked. So they said, no, I didn't like the instructor. No, I didn't like the course. No. And it was the cookies.
All down to some cookie.
And it took us about 3 or 4 weeks to figure that out. And of course, we brought back the cookies and the instructor scores went back up. Everybody's scores went back up. Yeah. So all of that planning is important, and having an eye towards what are some of your variables that you may have changed so you can correct them if you need to. All that takes place even before you evaluate the actual program, right?
Well, thank you for sharing your insights on the what, why, when, and how of evaluation and measurement. In our next episode, we'll be diving a bit deeper into those different levels of evaluation. Until next time.